on my bill, As Dean of the Johns Hopkins University School of Nursing, I formally present to you, as President, the Anne and George L. Bunting Professorship in Clinical Ethics.
Thank you very much. Great. Thanks, Martha. Thank you, Martha. Before I formally accept this professorship, I'm just wondering, Martha, if you could clarify, when you talk about the most trusted professions, where exactly does my profession, law, stand on that list?
Somewhere down near car dealers.
One wounded university. On behalf of the entire Johns Hopkins University, it is indeed my great privilege to accept the Anne and George L. Bunting Professorship in Clinical Ethics. I am really delighted to be here with Dean Hill, Dr. Faden, as well as so many university leaders, colleagues from across our divisions and our fellow institutions, family and friends, to recognize and thank yet again the Bunting family for an extraordinary gift, extraordinary investment they've made in our university, and also to celebrate the inaugural Bunting Professor, Dr. Cynda Hylton Rushton. And I'm particularly delighted that the Bunting's son, Jeff, is here, and their great-grandniece, Kathleen, and Dr. Rushton's two daughters, Hillary and Kelly, are also with us. In preparing these remarks, I learned something about Dr. Cynda Rushton that I thought I would share with you. This is one of these moments when you can have some hesitation, but then know it's going to be okay. Of all the things I'm going to share with these friends and family who are here today, it is simply that she is an expert knitter. Now, I have to admit that this tidbit seemed a little far afield from the subject matter that we're discussing today at the dedication, but the more I thought about Dr. Rushton's accomplishments, from her years of clinical work to her consultative leadership with organizations from the Institute of Medicine to the Coalition to Transform Advanced Care, the more relevant this background in knitting became. Let me explain. Now, I have to confess my firsthand knowledge of knitting is somewhat rudimentary, but I have undertaken deep investigation. I can learn through talking to others and through Wikipedia and so forth. And I have learned, this is how you run the university. There's a wiki for that. I have learned the key component of knitting is, wait for it, the stitch. And there are many virtuosic variations, but in every instance, no matter how it's created, each stitch supports the one surrounding it ad infinitum. The final product, of course, depends on that support. And I think that's a really powerful metaphor for the philosophy that has fueled your work. As program director of the Harriet Lane Compassionate Care Program at our Children's Center, Cynda has advocated for respecting each individual and integrating all stakeholders into decision-making, investigating the toll of moral distress on nurses. She has illuminated the need to support everyone involved in making those literal life and death decisions on a daily basis. Only by doing so can we ensure that we are openly addressing the most challenging questions of how we live and how we die with dignity. And only then can we create a healthcare system that finds the right answer at the right moment for the right person. Of course, arriving at these answers remains far from simple. It requires a unique alchemy of support that involves evaluating the nuances of care with honesty and appreciating the complexities, the rich complexities, the human complexities of each situation. It entails shifting fundamentally the way we think about caregiving across the spectrum of life. From the hospital floor to the pages of her scholarly publications on clinical ethics, Dr. Rushton has illuminated not only how we arrive at answers, but how we do it better. For all these reasons, it feels especially fitting that Dr. Rushton is being named the Anne and George Bunting Professor of Clinical Ethics. It's a great title, and it harkens to a great family, And I'm sure that you will wear that affiliation with great pride and will bring great distinction to it. Now, George and Ann, I feel almost like this is a regular event. Every couple of months we get together to yet celebrate another great thing. We can do it. My schedule is open. George, and next Tuesday, no, not yet. But George and Ann are extraordinary citizens of this community. They're extraordinary philanthropists. They're people who give not only of their financial resources, but they give their time, they give their passion, and they give their values. And in fact, that giving shapes so many of the institutions with which they are affiliated. And George will know that it goes back about 4.5 years, the first time we met, as I was going through this, my kids called it a game of Survivor, that I was being recruited to be on president of Hopkins. But one of the nice things was that the board of the trustees had created a subcommittee, which you know well, that was to search for the president's job. And through what seemed to be a marathon set of sessions that involved, I don't know, they locked me up in a hotel for days at a time, and I would go out for different meals, and then after they fed me and I imbibed lots of alcohol, they'd ask me very difficult questions to see how well I'd answer. But George was one of the first people with whom I met in that process. And as much as I knew about Hopkins, seeing Hopkins through his eyes and getting a history of this great institution, the health system, the university, the role that it played in Baltimore, and the way in which you birthed so many great and important innovations into life at Hopkins was something that affected me profoundly. And in truth, by the time that that the Board of Trustees got to the decision based on the work that George had done, I was just begging, please take me, I'm yours. But it was so clear that this was a spectacular and very special institution. And as you give, we take pride in all the ways in which you give of being able to link our cause with yours. Now, if you look across our institution, just consider over the last several years what their benefaction has done at Hopkins. Investigators working to improve maternal and child health, advances in cancer research, groundbreaking efforts to staunch the spread of AIDS around the world, and advance the way that we care for those old and young facing the ends of their lives. The Interfaith Chapel and the meditation room for children in our new hospital towers. And of course, the Interfaith Center, that is spiritual home to undergraduates of all faiths. Viewed in their totality, it's clear that each of these individual gifts represents a stitch that, when knitted together, reach across a span of a lifetime from beginning to end. From Homewood to East Baltimore, Ann and George have helped knit the disparate parts of our university ever closer together and ensure that all members of our community have venues, physical and metaphysical, through which their needs will be met, in which their perspectives will be heard, and from which they will enrich our wider community. The Bunting Professorship we celebrate today is but yet the next manifestation of that extraordinary and very rare ethos. It ensures that the challenges of individual patients and caregivers will be explored and mitigated. In its very design, it advocates for the integration of caregiving across disciplines as it deepens the ties between the Berman Institute and the School of Nursing, and it brings us one step nearer to uniting all of the Institute's partner schools on the second floor of Deering Hall. And Ruth, the vision that you have brought to making all of this happen with Martha and with other deans and leading faculty from across the university is also quite extraordinary. And it's a great testament to you as well that we're all here today. So for me, that we have this great Institute of Bioethics, that it is linked inextricably with this wonderful School of Nursing that has benefited so enormously from your leadership, Martha, that we have the Bunting name, and that to top it all off, that when the search committee went out to find simply the best person in the world to occupy this professorship, that person turned to be here. All of this makes for a perfect moment for the university. So to all of you who are here today, thank you for joining us, and thank you in particular to all of you and to the Buntings in particular for bringing us to this great day.